Hey, it's Luminostic. Today we're going to do a video on ritual magic. Share some of the experiences I've had both in the plant medicine and with Western Mystery School ritual magic. Also, I'd like to thank two new Patreon supporters, Jonathan Begnaud and Michael Zalabi. It makes 3 videos in a row, and this is the first time I'm able to announce 2 more. So do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe, share the video with anyone you think it may benefit, and please do support us on Patreon. Okay, so ceremonial magic. First of all, I want to say that I was very skeptical of this sort of thing. It just seems silly. You know, you're gonna mumble some mumbo jumbo, and for example, in the Hermetic magic tradition, the Western occult mystery schools, you are tracing geometric shapes in the air, and sending what is apparently imaginary light at them and all this sort of stuff. So I had a hard time with a lot of that, and it was difficult for me to even get over taking myself too seriously to even try and see if anything would come of any of it. But we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. The first story that I would like to tell is the first time I was involved in a ceremony or a ritual where something that was undeniably preternatural, I guess. Supernatural is kind of a dumb word. I don't like to use it. But at any rate, I had received an invitation to meet with the Star family in New Mexico, my roommate, my girlfriend, and I. And we didn't really know what to expect. We didn't do much research. We just, we were experiencing all these strange things. And this email from this, Golden Light Eagle Sioux Sundance chief wearing this big headdress inviting us to come to this thing. We just figured, well, of course we're going to go. So I get there, get out of the car, and this guy stops, and we look at each other, and there's this charge between our eyes, and he says, "Man, I haven't seen you in 40,000 years." And I'm like, "What?" And he's all, "We got to get to the ritual." I'm like, "What ritual?" And he grabs me by the arm and drags me around behind the hotel where the Star family gathering was happening. And I got there just in time. The circle of 13 people is closing. I'm the 13th one. Well, my girlfriend was 12 and I was 13, I guess. And there was a Hawaiian high priest. His name is Reynolds Kamako. Anyways, his name is Reynolds. That's actually what he said. Just call me Reynolds because you're never going to pronounce the last name. And so he tells us all, you guys are ascended masters. You've all come here to help the earth through a difficult time. You're basically Illuminati bloodline that got away, long story short. And I was the weirdest person probably in the circle. There was a school teacher and just, people that had no experience with this kind of thing. And I can't say that I really did either. So he comes around and he asks us to vibrate and just let these words come. No one knows what they're going to say. And so he comes around and he places his hand on everyone's head and he makes this sound very similar to a Buddhist monk. Those really low Tibetan, they usually chant fifths or whatever. And he says, harmonize with my voice and let the words come. And he wasn't leading anyone, but he seemed to know what they were going to say because simultaneously these sentences started coming out of everyone's mouths, perfect unison, perfect harmony. When he got to me, I thought, I don't know how to make it. I can't sing harmony. I've tried to sing harmony a bunch of times. It's something that you have to. I'm thinking all this stuff, and and then I just do it, and it comes out just perfect, like laser precision. And I'm not going to repeat what I said. It was a surprise to me, but apparently not a surprise to Reynolds, which was another surprise to me. And he seemed, there's this crazy thing comes out of my mouth, and he seemed to totally be expecting it. And so then he says, "May the wind blow to confirm the power of our prayers." And it's August, it's hot. As soon as he says that, there's a tunnel of wind that blows so hard that I remember there was gravel blowing across the parking lot. So given that these Native American spiritual leaders had met basically to tell us, it was almost 2012, I think. And I'd already, the Phoenix Process video that I've been talking about, this is kind of in the early stages of that, but I'd already experienced a lot of really weird things leading up to it. we were kind of prepared for something of this level of weirdness, but then, when it actually happened, it was still quite a shock. So what I'm saying here is that the native spiritual leaders, it was a representative from almost every major tribe there. Some were from South America, some from North America. Golden Light Eagle seemed to be kind of the leader. And their message was basically that there have always been the star tribes, the native people have always been in contact with them, and that some of us were in telepathic communication with them, and that sometimes when we got these ideas, they weren't actually even our ideas, they were actually coming from the star tribes. And if you've watched my ayahuasca and the star tribes video, there's a story about my particular relationship with a certain being from Sirius. So the weekend continued to get really weird. There was another ritual. It was basically a serpent rain dance, and it was held inside the building. It was clear outside when we started the ritual. I used to smoke, and I was out smoking before, so I know, I looked up just to check because I knew we were doing this rain dance, and I wanted to, make sure that I was aware of all the circumstances. And we're not about to do a rain dance, and it's already cloudy or whatever. It's not going to be that impressive if it rains, right? But no, clear. So after the serpent dance is over, we go outside, and there are puddles all over the parking lot, and there's still not a cloud. So it's as if the clouds concentrated around the building, rained a whole bunch, and then dispersed. So also I'd like to talk a little bit about the Masonic tradition and an experience that I had right around the same time period. And this will kind of explain, to a certain extent, I think, why we're drawing these geometries and using these certain words, generally in Hebrew. And I can't honestly say that I know why this works, but what I can tell you is that it's very difficult to explain the effect that these rituals have on consciousness. So the LBRP, the Lesser Banishing Ritual of the Pentagram, is generally the ritual that most Western magicians start with. It's supposed to be done, twice a day for a year, depending on who you're working with, but that's a pretty common regimen, I think. And then, you add the middle pillar, which is like the next level, and things progress from there. And the idea with the Lesser Banishing Ritual of the Pentagram is that you are formulating these protective pentagrams around you in a circle. You're invoking archangels in each of the directions. And one practice is to cast out, like you make mental associations with directions, elements, and also the archangels. So whatever you wish to bring into the circle, there's a invoking to bring these energies in, and then there's the banishing, which is to expel them. So a lot of times you'll invoke the energies that you want in the morning, and you'll expel them at night. So after I've been doing this ritual for a while, towards the end, and I don't want to ruin this for anyone else, because, and as I've said in other videos, part of the real reason for secrecy in the mystery schools is not to concentrate power or to hoard it, but it's to protect other people's process of gnosis. Because if you tell them too much, then they don't know if they've had this experience genuinely and spontaneously, if you have already told them about it and planted the idea in their head. So I'm going to be kind of intentionally vague, because I don't want to really give the exact details, but I saw something very specific and to a certain degree really random. Like there's no obvious association between this direction, this archangel, and this thing that I suddenly saw after I've been doing this for a few months. And this is interesting too. That there can be a sealed envelope that is, once you have reported a vision like that to your superior in a secret society, gives you the envelope to open it up, and they already know what it is you're going to see in your head. So that kind of proves to you, that there's somehow these rituals trigger these visions, and slowly over time you understand more, but they're not called the mysteries for nothing. But before that happened, even the next day, I happened to randomly find a book, flipped it open, and it said X, Y, and Z, specifically the things that I saw, are often seen in association with this particular archangel. And I just thought, like, why, how, what, So that was another early indication of something strange to that. And while I'm on the subject, I kind of want to talk about the fact that even something like the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, even as just a purely psychological meditation, it can be extremely valuable. Even if the conducting energies around and all of this, and the archangels are purely imaginary, is still, can be a very helpful meditative practice to go in the morning and, think about compose your day and bring in the energies and focus your mind, and then, at the end of the day, to disperse all of the things that you picked up that don't serve you or whatever. And I have experienced over time that I do believe that there are energies that are concentrated and directed when you're doing these sort of rituals. And so the last one that I want to talk about is probably my favorite, and probably the first. I think this probably happened, well, it would have been after the Star family meeting. So one day during this time period, I had this voice that was kind of guiding me through this whole process, and one day it said, "You need to go out and do this ritual to the sun." And I was like, "Well, I don't know any rituals, and I don't really, believe in magic, and I don't want to go out in this field and just feel silly for 20 minutes or whatever, But it was very, very insistent, and I had seen enough at this point that I knew that whatever this voice was, it seemed to know things, and it wasn't going to hurt anyone or myself to follow its instructions. So I was living in a canyon in Colorado at the time, and I'm walking out. It's getting to be late afternoon, and I get close to the field where I'm being told to go to this rock that's directly in front of this cave, where they found like a 6'7" red-haired mummy at one point, and there's petroglyphs. It was obviously a sacred place, and so it was directly in front of this cliff with this giant cave. Anasazi people used probably for ceremony, and so I hadn't quite made it out there yet, and I stopped, and I was going to abort mission, just thinking, I don't know any rituals, I don't believe in this crap, this is just dumb, I've lost my mind or something, I'm going home. And as soon as I pivoted on my foot, my phone was in my pocket, I heard this beep, and I just knew it was going to pertain to what was happening. So I pulled out my phone and flipped it open, and it said, "You and your brothers will echo this gospel to the four corners of the globe, and yet the sun shines on." In other words, get out there and do this. You're running out of time. The sun's going to set. It's going to be too late. And it was from my friend who was a singer in my band. He was from Texas, and he did not talk like that. Later, I asked him what it was about, and he honestly didn't seem to know why he sent me that text, where it came from. He did that several times, where he would send me these like perfectly timed communications that were, exquisitely poignant or whatever, related to what was happening, and he wouldn't really have a clear idea of why he had done that. And so I was like, all right. And I go out to the field, and I sit on this big rock, and I'm like, okay, what do I do? I have no idea what to do. And the voice says, raise the energy. And I thought, well, that's, how do you raise energy? And it just concentrate on just raising the energy. So I said, okay. So I closed my eyes and concentrated on raising the energy, in maybe 20 seconds, all the rattlesnakes in the field just all together. And if you watch my Synchronicity Mastering Fear video, the story, I went out in that same canyon late at night. I went through this process where every night I was going out facing a different fear. I had an experience where I scared a rattlesnake, and as soon as my energy calmed, the snake's tail perfectly settled. This was kind of the opposite. And, it's not like I was moving or making sounds that would have triggered these snakes. There was nothing else around, no dogs, nothing. Just sitting there, raise the energy, rattlesnakes everywhere. And so that was when I realized that something is really going on here. And so I was like, well, now what? And, my birth name is Harley. And I had been told by, the same voice earlier in the process that there's a veil between worlds, and things here are backwards. They get reversed when they pass through the veil. So the voice said, well, what is your name backwards? Because it's closer to the truth that way. And I was like, what? Yell Ra, and I'm like, oh, sun ritual, Egyptian god Ra, yell Ra. So I start screaming Ra at the sun at the top of my voice, and I see these like purple tendrils shooting out of the sun everywhere, and this goes on for a little while, and then I feel like it's time to wrap it up, and I start walking back to the neighborhood, and for some reason I turned down the road instead of going straight to my house, and I was just full of the energy of the sun. I mean, I felt like a god walking around, just emanating this spiritual power, and also there was a kind of a feeling of aggression as well. And the strangest thing happened. The neighbor is a guy from Venezuela or Argentina or something, and he had really like kinky, poofy hair, and he walked up to me, and as he got closer, his hair, as if static electricity, like somebody was moving a balloon around it, his hair actually just like stood up and puffed out when he got too close to me. And he had two little girls, and this was incredible too. They both came running up to me, no communication between them, and alternately they're like growling and laughing at me and like running around putting their hands on me. And this guy was real strange too, he was just kind of standing there and making some kind of strange remarks. I don't really remember what he said, but that was just crazy because those little girls somehow were expressing exactly what I was feeling. And so I go home, and the next day I get in the car and go to the gas station, maybe to get a pack of cigarettes or something. And I look at the front page of the newspaper, and it says the biggest solar storm in 26,000 years happened right when I was doing this ritual. And I'm not saying I caused that, but I am saying it does appear that I was guided to perform this ritual at that time by something that did know it was going to happen. So keep your eyes peeled for the Phoenix process video. I'm going to stop there for now, but of course all of these stories tie into a bigger picture. So I really encourage you to go through and watch some of these other videos. Interestingly, some of the people that I have not spoken to since that time period have gotten in touch with me right as I decided to make this Phoenix process video, which is just another confirmation that this stuff is, we're basically living in it's pure consciousness. It's a sea of pure consciousness. And once you find the thread, the invisible thread, and you start to decode it, it'll just continue to open up in the strangest, most synchronistic and amazing ways. Do me a favor, hit the like button, share, support us on Patreon, and we'll see you soon.